Indiana's basketball roster continues to get better as Darian DeVries lands another commit from the portal.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goetz. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Well, thank you so much for being here. Greatly appreciate you stopping by here at Locked On Hoosiers. And we're going to look at the Big Ten opponents that were announced for Indiana basketball. We don't know the order. We don't know when, but we do know who and we do know where. We're going to look at that coming up here in just a little bit. Plus some updates on Leo Curtis, the 7-footer from overseas who Indiana was trying to get on the roster. Plus, is Luke Goode going to be here or not? And some other updates there as well. But we talk about Josh Harris, and that's where we start today as Indiana and head coach Darian DeVries pick up another commitment from the transfer portal, their second commitment from North Florida, and it's in the 6'8" forward, Josh Harris. This kid is really, really talented. He's really, really young and could be one of the future stars on this Indiana team. And I know that there are some people who aren't overly excited about adding a developmental piece, about adding someone who may not make a major significant impact on this upcoming team, but I think you should still be excited about this kid. And we talked about him on Monday, right? When he came for a visit to Indiana, he committed mid-morning, mid-afternoon on Tuesday. And so here we are on Wednesday, another guy, another portal player, another recruit comes to Indiana, takes a visit to Bloomington, talks to Darian DeVries, and he doesn't leave without saying, yeah, I'm in. Let's go. You got me. I'm with you. Let's ride. Dark Knight DeVries strikes again. Josh Harris is someone who I think could be a future star at Indiana. Listen to some of these stats that he had last year at North Florida. Okay, 6'8". 210 pounds, plays as a forward. They used him more in a center role because they didn't have a whole lot of height, which you can imagine at North Florida, right? You bring him in, he was 6'8", 210 pounds. He was just a freshman, so he is now a rising sophomore, meaning he's going to be going in to his sophomore season. 13 points a game, 7 rebounds a game, shot it at nearly 56% from the floor. Can he shoot threes? Yes. He just doesn't shoot them a whole lot. He averages a half a make a game on 1 attempt per game. So he's making 1 per every 2 or 3 games. He is not a three-point shooter. He can, if he's open, in a late shot clock, kick it out, just home run, kind of Hail Mary type of thing. He can make it every now and then. What I would like to see is for that to get better. What I would like to see is for him to work on that and Indiana to develop that and him become a threat from behind the three-point line, because we know how it works in college basketball and in the pros. You've got to be able to shoot as a big guy. Gone are the days from the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s where, oh, you're 6'8" and above. Yeah, just stay down in the paint. You'll be fine. We'll get you the basketball. Just grab a rebound and everything will be fine. Those days are gone. And so for somebody like Harris, who didn't shoot a lot, didn't make a lot, look, 33%. So he was 1 for 3 every time he shot them, right? You want that to continue to grow and get better while he's at Indiana. And when you turn on the film and you go back and watch Josh Harris at North Florida, you can just tell, man, he's super good and raw and is going to take some time before he becomes a Power 5 Big Ten basketball player. But I think he's going to be a great addition to Indiana. And the fact that he has 3 years of eligibility, how many times have we talked about that over the last several weeks and over the last month or so about the different types of players that Indiana has had it on this roster. Yeah, you've got your one and dones, you've got your 1 year rentals, and that's fine. That's how the portal works. And especially when you were in a spot like Darian DeVries, where you had to get anything you could get your hands on, yeah, sometimes you got to take the Lamar Wilkersons of the world. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing. I'm saying it as take somebody who has 1 year and just see what they can give you, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But when you start adding guys like Josh Harris, and there's a couple of more on this roster that we've talked about who are going to be a part of this team, you hope can give you some sort of minutes and production, but they could be the future of your squad. That is what sticks out to me and how fun this could be moving forward. And the fact that you are hoping that Darian DeVries and this staff begin to recruit in state in the high school level, which I think that they are, then you feel confident about what the roster could look like for the next several years to come. Because as crazy as it sounds, you have to keep recruiting for 2027 and 2028 and 2029 and beyond, which is crazy that we're bumping up against the idea of 2030, but you have to do that. And that's what getting longer portal players, I guess, what's the better way to say that? Getting portal players with more eligibility, just to rephrase it, I guess. But that's what somebody like Josh Harris can bring you. Defensively, it's okay. It's fine. North Florida was not good defensively as a team. So, you are what your team is, I guess. But he's huge and he can protect the rim and he can play to his size in the paint. He's going to have to beef up. He's going to have to toughen up. He's going to have to learn how the Big Ten operates. But I expect that to happen with him being in practice with these guys and bumping around with them and hopefully getting into some of these games, whether it's early in the season and non-con play or before you get to the Big Ten or when you get into the Big Ten. But he steps in as a rotational piece at the least. You give him a couple of minutes a game at 6'8" and a sophomore, and you see what he can do. You see how he plays. You see how he impacts the game. And that's what we're going to learn too about Harris and other guys, and Darian DeVries in particular, is what's the strategy with these types of players? What's the strategy with guys who have played college basketball for 4 and 5 years compared to somebody like Josh Harris, who's only played a season, where he started every game he played. He missed a few due to an injury, but every game he played, he started. And again, he had 13 points a game on average, but man, he had some explosive performances this past season in particular situations. EKU, he dropped 19 and 10 on him. All right. Had 16 and 8 against Stetson back in February. He dropped 31 on Thursday, January 23rd. Had some a good performance against Georgia Tech in there somewhere. Was looking for that. I lost it. But there it is. Yeah, 22.7 rebounds against Georgia Tech. That's Power 4 basketball, Power 5 basketball. So he's got the potential to be really, really good. Step into Bloomington, get better, produce when you get the opportunity, and be one of the stars in the future. I think that's what Josh Harris is. And I think that's what Darian DeVries told him. I think that's what he accepted. And that's why he chose Indiana. So another portal commit, another roster spot filled. We'll talk about who else could fill some of those roster spots and how many more they're going to fill. We'll talk about that coming up next right here on the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, man, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just another budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on fast food and food not at home and things that I just didn't really need. But now I'm able to budget smarter and save more. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here again, making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. And for those of you who are watching and maybe hearing, I don't know, we are back home. Told you, we're back at home base. Had to take a quick work trip, but we are back and glad to be here and excited to continue talking transfer portal things for Indiana basketball, plus the opponents announced for the Big Ten play, the Big Ten schedule, kind of, for Indiana basketball. So we'll have that coming up in just a few moments. But as always, just wanted to ask you very quickly, if you would, if you're listening on audio, to follow us over there on your platform, subscribe if that's an option, turn on your notifications on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, Pandora, however you're listening. We appreciate you being there. The numbers are growing there. So that means more and more people are finding us, and hopefully it's because of you. And thank you so much for that. And for those of you watching on YouTube, the numbers have been incredible. April is going to go down, which is crazy. April's going to go down as the best month in the history of the show. And you are the reason for that. So thank you so much. March was the greatest month in the history of the show, and we beat that out. So thank you so much for that. And it's because of you guys showing up every day, liking the videos, commenting down below, subscribing to our channel, doing all those things that you do every single day. That has helped us tremendously. So thank you for that. Be sure you continue to do that, and your support means a ton here on Locked On Hoosiers. Well, there's a couple of names that we need to discuss for Indiana basketball. Some that have been asked about, some that have just kind of been out there in the universe, kind of floating around waiting for a home, and kind of looking at the roster as a whole in terms of the number, right? And so the first one I want to talk about is Leo Curtis, because there's been a lot of questioning on if Leo Curtis is going to be an Indiana Hoosier. And if you remember, this is the 7-footer from overseas, one who was committed to Arizona State, who Indiana was in on the initial recruitment. He decommitted from ASU, and Indiana had reached back out. It was in conversations. And I've seen some people asking, well, Jacob, is he coming to Indiana? Is this going to happen? Why is this kind of tailed off? And I will admit to you and say to you, when it starts to tail off like this and there's not a whole lot of discussions going on, whether it's a podcast or an article or between fans or whatever the case may be, when it starts to fade, it's typically a sign. Now, not always. It's not 100%. Secrets happen, or secrets are a thing, and surprises happen, I guess. But my intel is the fact that Leo is a good player, and he wants some money because of it. And it's a situation right now where Indiana is trying to decide, okay, how much more do we want to spend? How much more NIL money are we willing to spend on this particular roster? Now, Leo Curtis is one of those players who, you sign him, he could also be a future star for your team. He could also be one of those future players on this Indiana program, not just this team in particular, because he's 7 feet tall. He could freakishly athletic. And again, he's going to be a freshman wherever he goes. And so the eligibility factor is really appealing to me. And I think the skills are appealing to me as well. I just don't know if Indiana's willing to go with him yet. And I know a lot of you are concerned with the lack of a big man, lack of a true big man, lack of a 7-footer on this roster. And I get it. I understand the worry about not having a true big man. But I think what we're staring straight in the face here is Darian DeVries and the staff not worrying about it and going with a smaller, faster roster. Josh Harris is a perfect example. He's not 7 foot, but 6'8" still pretty good, folks. 6'8" is still a good size, and he uses that because he can beat the 7-footers down the floor. He runs the floor, he grabs rebounds, he gets alley-oops, he cleans up the glass. He does the things that a 7-footer can't do because he's smaller and he's quicker. That's what Indiana has on this roster right now. Just look up and down the thing. Somebody like Reed Bailey, he's 6'10", ladies and gentlemen. I don't want people to forget the fact that Reed Bailey is pushing 7 feet tall. He's 6'10", and I don't think that's an undersized guy in the Big Ten. I don't. He's also somebody who can score at 6'10". He's somebody who can defend at 6'10". He's somebody who can run at 6'10". So I don't think we're in such a bad spot as some people think. I just don't know if Leo Curtis is going to work out. I just the few things that I've received, the few pieces of information I've received, and then just kind of reading between the lines here, I just don't think it's going to happen. And again, surprises happen, and maybe it does. Maybe Indiana does find a way to come to an agreement and make this thing work. I just don't think it's going to happen. That's my prediction. Could be wrong. I've been wrong before. I'm just predicting Leo Curtis is not an Indiana Hoosier. And then I don't have an official update on Luke Goode because that process is still ongoing. I will say, however, that Indiana, I think, would take him back. Remember, I had some doubts and people were asking, and I think it was up in the air on whether Indiana would bring back Luke Goode if he were to get his extra year of eligibility approved, right? He's still in the middle of all of that crisis with so many other players and still waiting to get the waiver, right, for him to play another year of college basketball. But sounds like Indiana would take him back. And it sounds like and Indiana is planning to take him back and almost preparing like it's going to happen. And fine by me. He's a great shooter who had streaks last year. He had his moments last year, but played on a terrible team. He played with a terrible coach and a terrible system. They're going to put him in this roster, in this rotation, and say, man, just let it fly. We're going to get you the basketball. If it comes to you, just shoot it. And I think if he can do that, he's going to be just fine. And he'd be one of the better shooters on the team. And so if Luke Goode can get eligibility back, he, I think, will be an Indiana Hoosier. And by that point, right, you have 11 guys right now on this roster officially with 10 portal players and Trent Sisley from the high school ranks. That would be 12. Darian DeVries has made it clear he only wants to use 13 because then once you start doing that, you can have, I think it's 15 is what you can have on your roster, but anything above 13, I guess in terms of scholarships, but above 13 is when it dips into your whole revenue sharing thing, which that's all getting settled out in the house and all that. I mean, there are so many question marks right now on what a roster is going to look like and how you pay them and how many scholarships you have. I mean, scholarships are let's just say it like it is. These kids don't care about the scholarship anymore. It's going to be, eventually it's going to be about contracts and salary caps and things like that, but more on that on a later date. So that seems to be the plan for Indiana is if Goode can get a waiver, cool, bring him back, throw him in there and see what happens. And then find one more piece, whether it's a starter, developmental, young guy, whatever the case may be. Sounds like that's what Indiana wants to do. So we'll see how all that goes. I think Josh Harris is a great pickup. I think Luke Goode would be awesome to bring him back on this team. I think Indiana fans want him back on this team. And then you pick up somebody else in the portal if the price is right. Indiana's not trying to go out and spend another couple of $1 million on another player. You don't need another player like that. You need someone who just needs a home, somebody who is looking to step in and get better and possibly be a star on later teams. Josh Harris is a perfect example. If you can get another one of those, I think Darian DeVries in Indiana would do just that. But overall, the roster's pretty coming. I mean, it's pretty much set at this point. What you see is what you're going to get. If Goode can be added, great. If you get another portal guy, awesome. If not, it's not that big of a deal. I will say if Goode can't come back, you would probably get somebody else, but I don't know the timeline on that because nobody knows the timeline on Goode. So we'll see what happens there. Overall, though, I think the roster's in a good spot. I think you've made some great additions through the portal, and I'm excited, if you can't tell, about what this team is going to be, what this team is going to bring, and just the excitement that they have and the difference that it's going to look or the difference it's going to have from last year to this year. And again, I stressed this the other day, and I'll stress it again right here. Do not compare last year's portal class to this year's portal class. Don't do it. Different coach, different staff, different team, different year. Do not do it, okay? This team will be different. They will be better. How much better? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. But the good news is we do know who they're playing, and we do know where they are playing. As the Big Ten announced the Big Ten schedule for Indiana basketball, we'll take a look at that and break it all down coming up next right here on Locked On Hoosiers. Welcome back into our final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers, and appreciate you being here again, making this your first listen, first watch, go-to spot, all that good stuff here on Locked On Hoosiers every single day. And you can tell we're getting closer, slowly, but getting closer to college basketball season when the Big Ten releases the Big Ten opponents list for each individual squad. And so what this is the Big Ten has told each and every team, okay, here's who you're playing and here's where you're going to play. But here's what we don't know. We don't know when, we don't know where in terms of the schedule placement, okay? So for Indiana in particular, we know the teams that we're going to play at home inside of Assembly Hall. We know the teams that we're going to play on the road, wherever that may be. And then we have 3 opponents where we're going to play both. We're going to play once at home and once on the road. And the 3 teams we have home and away are Purdue, obviously, Michigan State, and Minnesota, which is fascinating to me. But we knew Purdue was going to be in there. I love having Michigan State on there. And Minnesota, you have a chance to get a couple of wins right there. Just don't think Minnesota is going to be all that good. But we've lost to them before, so I'll hold my breath. Purdue, right, you expect that. That's one that will never change for Indiana. I love Michigan State being on there because they're expected to be good. Again, shocker, I know. And you have a chance to get some serious tournament wins right there. Whether it's inside Assembly Hall or whether it is in East Lansing, you will have a chance to get some good wins against a solid Michigan State team. However, you have other big-time games on this schedule, and I want to start with the home games because man, this is an attackable stretch that you're going to have. Again, we don't know how these are all going to stack up. We don't know where they're going to be placed at. We don't know if you're going to have we don't know which games follow the other, which games preview each other. We don't know any of that stuff. But what we do know is the games you will play inside of Assembly Hall. These are the teams you're only going to play once, and you're going to play them in Bloomington this season. Iowa, Nebraska, Penn State, Oregon, Northwestern, Wisconsin, and Washington. I'll say those again: Iowa, Nebraska, Penn State, Oregon, Northwestern, Wisconsin, and Washington. Folks, that's not hard. It's not hard. That's not a bad home scale at all. Entertaining, yeah, entertaining. You're going to get Iowa with new head coach Ben McCollum. You're going to get Oregon in there, who I think could be a top 25 team this season. You're going to get Wisconsin at home. You don't have to go to Madison. That's cool. The Wisconsin's always a fun team. Washington will, I assume, be making their first ever trip to Bloomington. I try to remember. I don't think that's ever happened. Penn State, okay, not a big deal, but I'm not concerned with Nebraska or Northwestern or Penn State or Washington on the basketball floor. Not really concerned about that. You should get those wins. I don't care where they're stacked in the season. You're better than those teams. Iowa, same way. Oregon, same way. Wisconsin, maybe a 50-50. We'll see how the team looks when we get there. But that's not a bad home slate at all. On top of having Purdue and Michigan State inside your house, you need to win one of those. And then having Minnesota come here as well, you need to win that. Indiana can stack some wins at home. And you better do that because the road games are a little bit more difficult. These are the teams you're only going to play once, and you only have to play them, and you only get to play them on the road. You're only going to play them one time, and it's away from Assembly Hall. You go to Illinois, to Michigan, to Ohio State, to Maryland, to USC, UCLA, and to Rutgers. Again, you're going to Illinois, Maryland, Rutgers, Ohio State, Michigan, and then out west to UCLA and USC. That's a little bit tougher. That's a little bit tougher because Illinois has reloaded in the transfer portal. Maryland has reloaded in the transfer portal. Michigan has reloaded in the transfer portal. They're bringing back some big names there for Dusty May. Ohio State, wild card, don't really know. I need to look more into them and see what they're going to do. They burned me last year. They were my second team to look out for behind Michigan, who made it to the Sweet 16. Rutgers, we'll see how that goes. They lost their top 5 picks or whatever. And then you go out west. You go play UCLA, who I think could be better under Mick Cronin. And you go to play USC with Eric Musselman, who they have reloaded in the transfer portal. So much, much more difficult road trips, including Purdue and Michigan State and Minnesota. So my thing is, you look at this just from knowing who they are and where you have to go or where you play them, not knowing where they stack up in the schedule just yet. Just survive on the road, right? Go out west. If you can go out west and beat UCLA and USC because I think you're better than them, that'd be cool. If you can go on the road and beat Maryland because I think you're better than them, that'd be cool. Go on the road and beat Minnesota because you're definitely better than them, that would be cool. You wanted Ohio State this year, you can do it again. Rutgers and Michigan, yeah, tough games. Illinois, tough game. Purdue, Michigan State, tough games. No doubt about it. But Indiana's going to have to start winning some of those. And those are all going to be tests for this team, this coaching staff, Darian DeVries. And it's hard to speak on, well, you should do this because we don't know what the teams look like. I'm just going based off of the roster knowledge that I have. It's not crazy to say we should beat Minnesota, but I can't comfortably say whether we should beat Michigan or not. I can't even comfortably say if we should beat Rutgers or not because we don't fully know just yet. But the home games are going to be really good and a chance to win some games. And I think for Indiana, survive on the road this season, and you're going to be just fine. I am looking forward to when the actual schedule comes out because remember, have some fun non-conference games in there too. Marquette, Louisville, and Kentucky. We get to see those three teams and non-conference play along with a bunch of others that we'll get as the summer goes along. And so that is what the schedule will have on it. We just don't know what it's going to look like just yet for Indiana basketball in 2025 and 2026. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you so much for being here. If you're listening on audio, follow us there, turn on notifications, send it out to everybody you know. We want them listening to Locked On Hoosiers. And if you're watching on YouTube, like the video, leave your thoughts in the YouTube comments on Josh Harris, other portal players possibly, and the schedule, the Big Ten opponents that Indiana will have. Leave your thoughts in the YouTube comments and then subscribe to the channel, okay? We are back tomorrow to start another month, Hoosier fans. So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.